The laughter lands like a slap in the middle of the optical shop. A man waves a pair of designer frames and sneers, "How does a blind guy sell glasses?" Behind the counter, Samuel Granger, 62, keeps his face steady, fingers reading the rims by texture as if they're braille. His white cane rests against his knee, perfectly placed, never trembling. The manager tries to smile it off, until customers start stepping back, whispering, watching Samuel like he's a mistake. If stories about quiet sacrifice and earned justice pull you in, subscribe now. Stay close, because the reason Samuel never flinches is far bigger than anyone in this shop guesses. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, clean and clinical, washing everything in a pale sheen. The air smells like lens cleaner and warm plastic, with a faint trace of coffee from the break room. Frames line the walls in perfect rows, tortoiseshell, brushed steel, matte black, while a muted TV above the waiting chairs cycles a daytime news segment. Samuel Granger stands behind the main display table, head angled slightly as if listening to the room's shape. He works by ritual. Left hand finds a frame's bridge, thumb checks the nose pads, fingertips trace the hinge tension. Each pair returns to its exact slot, aligned so precisely the tags all face the same direction. When the front door chimes, his jaw tightens for half a second, then releases, disciplined. No wasted motion, no apology in his posture. Elaine Porter, the store manager, hovers near him with a practiced warmth that feels just a touch too careful. She wears a navy blazer and a name badge that catches the light when she turns. "Samuel runs our fittings," she tells a browsing couple, voice upbeat. "He has the best hands in the building." The couple nods, but their smiles slip. The husband's eyes flick to Samuel's cane, then to the display, then away, like looking too long might make him complicit. A teenage employee, Kyle Merritt, pretends to straighten microfiber cloths at the register, watching with wide eyes, his lips pressed thin. Then the same customer from the doorway, Calvin Stratton, sharp suit, sharper grin, leans in close enough that Samuel can feel his breath carry mint and impatience. Calvin taps the counter twice, hard. "I'm not trying to be cruel," he says loud on purpose, "but this is a bad look. I want someone who can actually see." Elaine's smile strains at the corners. "Mr. Stratton, we're an inclusive workplace. Samuel is fully trained." Calvin's gaze slides over Samuel like an inspection. "It's a joke of bad taste," he adds, and laughs again, short, mean. Kyle's cheeks redden. A woman in the waiting area lowers her eyes, pretending to scroll, but her shoulders creep upward. Samuel doesn't reach for dignity. He already wears it. He only adjusts a set of titanium frames, then moves them 3 inches to the right. Exact. The skin across his knuckles shows faint, old scarring when his sleeve rides up, thin lines that don't belong to retail. And when the TV briefly switches to footage of a helicopter demonstration, the distant rotor thump makes Samuel's fingers pause, just one beat, before continuing, smoother than before. Elaine notices that pause. Her throat bobs as she swallows. "Samuel," she asks softly, "are you okay?" His mouth forms the smallest controlled smile. "I'm fine," he says. "I just recognize sounds." He goes back to sorting by touch, perfect, patient, while Calvin Stratton watches, certain he's winning. 2 hours before the afternoon rush, the shop's rhythm turns sharp. The door chime starts hitting every 30 seconds. Cold air rides in with each opening, winter breath, wet wool, the metallic bite of car exhaust. A mother wipes fog off her glasses with the hem of her sweater. Someone drops coins into the donation jar by the register and they clink like tiny bells. The TV stays low, but the captions crawl fast, and every so often the news feed flashes B-roll of troops boarding aircraft. Samuel Granger doesn't look up. He can't, but he tracks the room anyway. His head pivots a few degrees when voices cross paths. His shoulders stay square, military straight, as if an invisible line runs from his spine to the ceiling grid. When Kyle Merritt calls, "Next fitting, Mr. Dawson?" Samuel's fingers are already holding the correct frame case before Kyle finishes the name. A quiet efficiency that makes people stare, then feel guilty for staring. Calvin Stratton lingers near the designer wall like he owns it. He laughs too loudly at his own jokes, and every laugh feels aimed. When Elaine Porter steps away to answer a phone call, Calvin slides closer to Samuel's table and speaks in a tone that performs kindness. "Let me be honest," Calvin says, tapping a price tag. "People come here because they care about seeing this." He gestures toward the cane with 2 fingers, as if it's something sticky. "This is like hiring a chef who can't taste." Kyle freezes mid-swipe of the counter, eyes flicking between them. A retired teacher in the waiting chairs, Marjorie Klein, gray curls, quilted coat, tightens her grip on her purse strap. Her mouth pinches, a small disapproving line, but she doesn't intervene. Samuel keeps working. He tests hinge tension with his thumb. Press, release. Perfect spring, then sets the frame down exactly parallel to the table edge. His lips press together for a fraction of a second, then relax. Control. Practiced. Calvin mistakes it for surrender. Calvin turns to the room like he's taking a vote. "Does anyone else find this uncomfortable?" he asks, voice rising. "I mean, come on. How does he even know what he's handing you?" A couple near the contact lens display exchanges a glance. The man shrugs, trying to disappear. The woman's eyes dart to Elaine's office door. No one answers. Samuel's right hand slides up his sleeve as he reaches, exposing the faint scars across his knuckles again. Thin, pale lines like old burns. His hand pauses at the edge of the display, and for one beat his fingers curl, not into a fist, but into a shape that looks like restraint. Then the TV changes. A segment cuts to a local military fundraiser. The audio briefly spikes, the deep rhythmic thump of rotor blades. It's not even loud, just real enough. Samuel's jaw tightens so hard a muscle jumps near his cheekbone. His breathing becomes measured, 4 counts in, 4 counts out, like a drill. Kyle notices. Marjorie notices. Calvin notices and smiles like he's found a weak spot. "In moments," Elaine says from the back as she returns, "we'll have another optician available." The door chime interrupts her. A man steps inside who doesn't move like a shopper. He moves like someone entering a room that could turn dangerous. Late 40s, broad shoulders under a faded field jacket, ball cap pulled low. His eyes scan exits first, then people, then the TV. The smell of cold rain clings to him. His hands hover near his pockets like they're deciding whether to shake or hide. Kyle brightens automatically. "Sir, welcome in." The man flinches at the greeting as if it's a sudden noise in a quiet hallway. His chest starts pumping fast, too fast. His breath goes shallow, catching high. He stares at the TV helicopter footage, and his face drains of color. A tremor travels down his forearm into his fingers. Calvin rolls his eyes. "Great," he mutters. "Now we've got a whole circus." The veteran's knee bounces hard. His gaze locks on the screen, unblinking, pupils wide. He whispers, barely audible, "Not again. Not again." Samuel turns his head directly toward that voice, not toward the TV, toward the breathing. He sets the frame down and lifts one hand slowly, palm open, not reaching, inviting. His tone is low, steady, slicing clean through the shop's awkward silence. "Hey," Samuel says, "you're safe. Feel the floor under your boots. Count with me." Elaine takes a step forward, unsure, but Samuel's posture stops her. Subtle, authoritative. Kyle watches, swallowing hard, his eyebrows rising as if he's seeing a new person. The veteran's breath stutters. "I can't." His throat works. Sweat beads at his hairline despite the cold. Samuel listens like a machine tuned to pain. "In through your nose," he says. 4 seconds. Hold. Then out. Longer than the inhale. Your body follows the exhale. The veteran's shoulders shudder, then drop a millimeter. Samuel shifts his weight, angled so his voice reaches without cornering. His fingers tap once on the counter, an anchor point, a tempo. "Look for 5 things you can touch," he adds softly. "Start with your jacket. Texture. Seams. Stay here with me." Marjorie's lips part. She whispers to herself, astonished. How does he... Calvin's grin fades. He looks around, realizing the room's attention isn't on him anymore. The veteran's breathing slows by degrees, ragged to uneven, uneven to controllable. His eyes blink finally, and moisture gathers at the rims. He swallows, hard, Adam's apple bobbing. Thank you, he says, voice cracked. I didn't mean to. You didn't do anything wrong, Samuel replies. And when he says it, his expression doesn't pity. It recognizes. Elaine steps closer, voice hushed. Samuel, how did you know exactly what to do? Samuel's mouth curves into that same small, controlled smile, but now it carries weight. I recognize the signs, he says, and nothing more. As the veteran steadies, Kyle notices a detail Samuel doesn't realize he's revealing. The way Samuel's thumb brushes the inside of his wallet when he reaches for a pen. Protective, habitual. Like there's something in there he never lets move. And in the sudden calm, with Calvin watching and the shop holding its breath, Elaine understands one thing with chilling certainty. Samuel's blindness is not the most important thing he's hiding. The shop's fluorescent buzz fades under the veteran's steadier breathing. Elaine Porter guides him to a chair and lowers the TV volume until rotor thump becomes a muffled pulse. Kyle Merritt brings a paper cup of water with both hands, careful like it might spill shame. Calvin Stratton stands near the designer wall, arms folded, face arranged into a bored mask. Yet his eyes keep darting to Samuel Granger's hands, to the scars that flash when his sleeve shifts. Samuel stays behind the counter, still as a post. His chin lifts a fraction, listening for the veteran's breath to stay low. When it does, Samuel's shoulders ease by a hair, a micro-release, like a man setting a rifle down after realizing the hallway is clear. In the back, Elaine says softly, close to his ear. Please, just a minute. Samuel nods once. No argument, no drama. He taps his cane lightly against the floor, 2 precise clicks, and follows Elaine through the narrow hallway that smells of cardboard boxes and printer toner. The break room is small, the air warmer, the coffee burnt. A tiny refrigerator hums like a distant generator. Elaine closes the door. For a second she just watches him breathe. Then, you calmed him down in under 3 minutes. Samuel's fingers find the edge of the table. He traces a shallow scratch in the laminate, as if reading a map. He did the work, he says. Elaine's throat tightens, her eyes shine, and she blinks fast, trying to keep professional control. You knew the count, the grounding. The way you positioned your body so you didn't corner him. She swallows. Where does that come from, Samuel? Samuel's smile appears, small, controlled, and then disappears. His jaw shifts once, a tiny grinding motion, like he's biting back a memory with teeth that know exactly how sharp it is. Outside the break room, the TV's closed captions flicker across the glass of the office window. Local fundraiser, veterans, helicopter. The words are silent, but Samuel's body reacts anyway. His right hand drifts, involuntary, to his knuckles. Scar tissue, heat that isn't there. His fingertips pause, and for a beat, his breathing goes too shallow. Elaine hears the change instantly. Hey, she says, gentler now. You're safe. Feel the floor. Samuel inhales. 4 counts. Holds. Exhales longer. The same technique he just gave away. His posture resets into that squared, military straight line, like muscle memory is a uniform he can still wear. You don't have to tell me, Elaine says, but I need to know how to protect you in here. Samuel turns his head toward her voice, not quite facing her, as if looking directly might make the truth spill faster. There's a reason I can't stand that sound, he murmurs. The break room's hum becomes another world, and the real one slides in. Hotter, louder, sharp with metal. Afghanistan, a night that feels like it never ends. The air is thin and bitter with dust. Rotor wash slaps the ground and throws grit into teeth and eyes. Inside a Black Hawk, the cockpit is cramped and vibrating. instruments glowing green and amber like fireflies trapped in glass. Samuel's hands, young then, unscarred, move with ruthless calm across switches and grips. His voice cuts through the intercom. "Hold tight. 30 seconds. A crew chief shouts back, "LZ is hot." Tracer fire stitches the dark. The first impact sounds like a hammer to the ribs of the aircraft. The second is worse, an ugly, tearing crunch, and the cabin fills with the stink of burning insulation. Heat blooms in a wave. Samuel's breath catches, his pupils squeeze, his face tightens in a grimace that lasts half a heartbeat before discipline crushes it flat. Someone screams, "Fire! Fire!" Samuel's hands fly. He snaps a command like it's law. "Unstrap! Move! Now!" His palms slam buckles free. He grabs a younger crewman by the vest and shoves him toward the door. Another man is pinned, dazed, eyes glassy. Samuel's voice drops low, lethal with focus. "Look at me. Breathe. On my count." The same cadence, born in a burning aircraft instead of a retail shop. The cockpit fills with smoke. Thick, oily, alive. The world narrows to touch and sound. Samuel's fingers burn as he pulls a third man away from a twisted frame. His knuckles blister, skin splits, scar lines are written into him. "Go!" he roars, and his throat tastes like pennies. The fourth one won't move. The pilot beside him, his friend, shakes his head, coughing, eyes watering. "Sam, leave me!" Samuel's face hardens, lips thinning. A micro-expression of refusal so absolute it's almost calm. "Not happening," he says. He drags him anyway, shoulders screaming, and the moment they clear the door, the cabin erupts in a violent white flash. Light. Heat. Then nothing but darkness that never lifts. Back in the break room, Samuel's fingers cling to the table edge. His nails press into the laminate as if he's anchoring himself to the present. Elaine stands frozen, mouth slightly open, breath held. "You were a pilot," she whispers. Samuel lets the silence sit between them like a folded flag. "I was," he says, "and then I wasn't." Elaine's voice breaks on the next question. "And the award?" Samuel tilts his head, listening to her guilt. "It's at home," he answers. "Put away." A beat. Then softer, more philosophical than he sounds comfortable being. "People think sight is the beginning of truth," he says. It isn't. Truth starts when you stop looking away. While Samuel's story is fictional, combat-related vision loss is a documented reality. During Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, 2001-2014, eye injuries became a leading cause of evacuation, with thousands of service members treated for ocular trauma, Defense and Veterans Eye Injury and Vision Registry, US DoD VA. Advances in battlefield eye protection reduced some injuries, but rehabilitation and stigma around disability remain systemic challenges requiring continued awareness and reform. Elaine exhales, shaky. "So you work here because they come in for glasses," Samuel says, and his mouth tightens at the corner. Controlled pain. "And sometimes what they really need is someone who recognizes the signs before they turn into a headline." From outside the break room door, the shop noise swells again. Voices, footsteps, a new door chime. Calvin's laugh cuts through, too bright, trying to reclaim the room. Elaine reaches for the doorknob, then hesitates. "Samuel, there's someone scheduled in 20 minutes, she says. "Military insurance, routine exam. The optometrist is..." Samuel's hand drifts to his wallet, thumb brushing the inside edge, protective and automatic. His face goes still. "In moments," he says quietly, "the wrong person is going to recognize the right detail." 20 minutes later, the front door chime rings with a softer tone, controlled, unhurried. The shop air feels colder now, like the winter has learned to wait inside. Someone has turned the TV down, but the captions still crawl in pale blocks across the screen. Calvin Stratton's laughter keeps trying to rise above everything, yet it lands thinner, as if the room no longer accepts it. Samuel Granger returns to the counter first. His cane taps once, then stops. He squares himself behind the display table, hands resting lightly on the velvet tray of frames. Elaine Porter stays close, too close to be casual, her fingers worrying the edge of her name badge until it clicks against the blazer. Kyle Merritt watches from the register, eyes wide, swallowing like his throat is too small for what he's holding back. The veteran from earlier sits in the waiting area, both hands wrapped around his paper cup. He stares at the floor now, breathing steady, jaw working slowly as if chewing through embarrassment. When Samuel speaks to a customer, the veteran's shoulders loosen another fraction, like the sound of Samuel's calm is a guardrail. Then the scheduled exam arrives. The man steps in with the posture of someone who has spent years in hallways that punish slouching. Mid-40s, clean haircut, winter coat unzipped despite the cold, as if comfort is a luxury he forgets to claim. He pauses at the door, not scanning for sales, but for faces. His eyes land on Samuel's cane, then drift up to Samuel's hands. His expression changes in a way only people with shared language notice. Eyebrows lift, then pull together. His mouth parts, then clamps shut. Recognition fighting disbelief. Elaine straightens. "Good afternoon, sir. You're here for the 2:30, Dr. Nolan Hart?" "I am," the optometrist says, voice steady, until it isn't. His gaze stays locked on Samuel. "Samuel? Granger?" Calvin turns, intrigued. "Oh, come on," he mutters, smirking. "Now the blind guy has fans?" Dr. Nolan Hart takes one step closer. His breath catches, sharp. Samuel doesn't move, but his fingers tighten on the tray edge, subtle, controlled, like the table is the only thing keeping the world aligned. His face goes unreadable, yet one muscle jumps near his cheekbone. Nolan's voice drops, reverent and shaken at once. "Commander Granger, you're—" He stops, eyes glassing. He swallows hard. His Adam's apple bobs. "You're the pilot." The shop quiets so completely the fluorescent buzz becomes loud. Calvin's smile falters. "The pilot of what?" Nolan's eyes never leave Samuel. "The Black Hawk, Afghanistan. The rescue where the cabin burns." His voice fractures. He presses his lips together, trying to regain control, but emotion leaks through in his lashes, blinking fast. "You pull my brother out." Kyle's mouth opens slightly. Elaine's hand flies to her chest, fingers splaying over her sternum, as if she can physically hold the moment in place. The veteran in the waiting area lifts his head, eyes narrowing, listening like a man hearing his own name across a battlefield. Samuel's jaw flexes once. He doesn't accept praise. He simply endures it. "That was a long time ago," he says, quiet. Nolan shakes his head, almost angry at the understatement. "He lives because of you." Nolan exhales through his nose, a short, broken breath. He tells it like a story he can't finish without shaking. He says the pilot's hands are on fire and you still keep counting. He says you say, "On my count, move." Samuel's lips press together. One tight beat, then release. The scars on his knuckles whiten as his fingers curl, then flatten again. Discipline, holding back a flood. Calvin takes a half step back. His face drains from smug to confused to uneasy, as if the floor has shifted under designer shoes. "This is some kind of performance," he tries, but his voice lacks conviction. "A marketing thing." Nolan turns his head slowly toward Calvin, eyes suddenly sharp. "No." One word, absolute. Then Nolan looks back to Samuel, softer again. "Do you have it with you?" he asks, almost whispering. "Your wallet. There's a photo, isn't there?" A ripple runs through the room. Elaine's gaze snaps to Samuel's pocket. Kyle's eyes drop to Samuel's hand. Samuel's thumb slides into his wallet with that protective habit Kyle noticed. Breadcrumb made real. He draws out a worn, slightly blurred photograph. The edges are soft from years of being touched. Even without sight, Samuel holds it like he knows every millimeter. Nolan's breath shudders. "That's him," he says. "That's the flight crew. That's you." Calvin stares at the photo like it might bite. His mouth opens, then closes. His eyes flick to Samuel's cane, to Samuel's scars, to the veteran in the chair. For the first time, Calvin looks afraid of what his own words have built. Nolan's voice rises just enough for everyone. You lose your eyes saving 4 men. He swallows again, tears bright now. And you're here, getting mocked, for selling glasses. Silence hits like impact. Samuel keeps his face steady, but something shifts in him. Tiny, visible only in the way his shoulders settle as if he has finally stopped bracing for the next blow. I'm not here for glasses, he says. I'm here for the ones who stop coming. The veteran in the waiting area lets out a shaky breath that sounds like a sob he refuses to admit. Elaine's eyes shine. Kyle's hands tremble on the register edge. Calvin finally whispers, hoarse, I didn't know. Samuel turns his head toward Calvin's voice, not accusing, not triumphant, just present. That's the problem, he says. Nolan steps closer, careful, respectful. Elaine, he says, voice firm now, I need a private room, and Samuel. He hesitates, then speaks like a promise. You're not leaving this shop the way you walked in. Outside, a new gust of winter rattles the glass door. Inside, the balance of power flips, slowly, inevitably, while Calvin Stratton realizes consequences are already moving toward him. Hard stop. Block 6 begins after this point. In the next 10 minutes, the shop feels like a different building. The fluorescent lights still buzz, but the air shifts. Less chemical, more human. Coffee, wet wool, the faint salt of someone trying not to cry. Elaine Porter closes her office door halfway, not to hide Samuel Granger, but to give him space. Out front, Kyle Merritt turns the TV to silent weather radar, as if he can mute the past. Calvin Stratton doesn't leave. He hovers by the designer wall, arms still folded, except his fingers now pick at his cuff like it's fraying. His eyes keep darting to the cane, then away, ashamed to admit he's finally seeing it. Doctor. Nolan Hart steps into Elaine's office with the steady authority of medicine and the tenderness of debt. The veteran in the waiting area, still clutching his paper cup, watches from the crack of the door, his brows knit, like he's protecting the only calm voice he trusts. Nolan speaks first, low but unmistakable. Samuel isn't a liability, he's an asset. His jaw tightens, a small tremor in his cheek. And if anyone here treats him like a spectacle again, they answer to me. Elaine's chin lifts. Mr. Stratton is not an employee, she says, and her smile is gone now. Clean, cold professionalism. She steps out to the floor and addresses the room. This store protects its staff. If you can't respect that, you can shop somewhere else. Calvin's mouth opens, then closes. A flash of anger tries to rise and dies when Nolan follows them out. Nolan points at the donation jar by the register, then at Calvin. You want to make this right? He asks. Start there, then apologize like you mean it. Calvin's throat works. His eyes shine with panic, then drop. He clears his throat, and even that sounds smaller than it used to. Samuel, His lips press tight, then release. I said something ugly. I thought I was being honest. He swallows. I was just being cruel. Samuel stands with his hands on the velvet tray, fingers resting lightly as if the frames are fragile. His face stays composed, but a micro-expression crosses his mouth. One corner tightens, not in triumph, but in restraint. Honesty without compassion is just violence, he says quietly. Kyle's shoulders sag in relief, like someone finally says the rule out loud. Nolan turns to Elaine. He's doing outreach without a badge, he says. Veterans come in for eyewear because it feels safe. They don't come in for therapy. Nolan's voice catches, then steadies. Samuel recognizes breathing patterns, dissociation, startled responses. He connects them with resources before they spiral. The veteran in the waiting area nods once, hard, blinking fast. He saved me today, he says, voice rough. And I didn't even ask. Elaine's eyes flicker to Samuel's scarred knuckles. How many? She asks, barely audible. Samuel's jaw flexes. one controlled grind. 12, he answers. In 3 years. He pauses, then adds softer. 12 who were planning to disappear. Silence spreads, heavy, reverent. Even Calvin doesn't interrupt it. Nolan speaks again, louder now, so everyone hears. I'm calling the VA liaison I work with. Today, Elaine, if Samuel wants it, we formalize what he's already doing. Training, a referral pathway, signage that tells vets this is a safe place. Elaine nods immediately. Done. Kyle wipes at his eye fast, pretending it's dust. Marjorie Klein in the waiting chairs exhales through trembling lips, like her own shame is leaving with the breath. Calvin steps forward, slower, careful. He drops his card into the donation jar, then his wallet, then a second card. More than necessary, enough to sting. I didn't know, he whispers. Samuel turns his head toward the sound, steady as a compass. Now you do, he replies. And with that, the shop stops treating Samuel Granger like a mistake and starts treating him like the reason some people walk out alive. A week later, morning light pours through the front windows in a thin, honeyed sheet, turning the dust in the air into slow floating sparks. The shop smells of fresh cardboard, lemon cleaner, and new rubber from a floor mat just unrolled. A small sign now sits by the donation jar. Veterans, you're safe here. Ask us. Samuel Granger stands at the same display table, cane tucked neatly against his shin, fingertips moving across frames like he's listening to them. His mouth softens, barely, when a familiar steady breath passes the door. Kyle Merritt sets down a tray of cases, quieter than he used to be. Elaine Porter adjusts the sign until it's perfectly straight, then stills, watching Samuel the way people watch a lighthouse they didn't realize they needed. In Samuel's hands, a matte black frame clicks into alignment. His jaw relaxes by a millimeter. Peace, but disciplined. The door chime rings again, hesitant this time. Calvin Stratton steps inside without the sharp grin, shoulders slightly rounded, eyes fixed on the floor for half a beat before he forces them up. His lips part, then press together. A swallow tightens his throat. Mr. Granger, he says, voice stripped of performance. I'm sorry. He sets an envelope beside the jar. For the VA outreach, and for what I turned you into, in my head. Samuel tilts his head toward the sound, expression unreadable. Then one corner of his mouth tightens with restraint, not victory. While Samuel's story is fictional, veteran suicide prevention is a documented public health priority. The Veterans Crisis Line, expanded nationally in 2007, has connected millions of callers to support, and VA reports show rising use of crisis services in recent years. U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. In 2020, veterans accounted for 13.5% of U.S. adult suicides while representing a smaller share of the population. VA, National Veteran Suicide Prevention Annual Report. These systemic challenges require continued awareness and reform. Samuel's fingers find a frame's bridge, gentle as a promise. Not every kind of vision needs eyes, he says. Some people learn to see with what they refuse to abandon. If this kind of earned justice matters to you, subscribe and share where you're watching from. More stories are coming, about quiet heroes, real accountability and dignity that can't be mocked into silence.